Wait till the spinning stops and then we'll.
There we are. We're on.
Hey, hello. Here we are. We're at the McCoys, and we have breakfast going on in the background. In case you hear the sound of munching, we had a special breakfast feast this morning, and so to fellowship over. So that's kind of fun. So we're here, and we say hello to everybody, and we're waiting a few minutes for people to get on.
Well, I think that they're on a lot of times, but it doesn't show up until
a couple minutes. Right. There's a lifetime.
Until somebody writes a comment.
Right. So our subject today is the latter rain, because that's, everyone looks toward the negative side of the prophecies, which there are, the great, the outpouring of the vials of wrath, and we are coming to a time of great upheaval in the world, and disasters and calamities and plagues, according to the scriptures. If we are in the end times, and we're going to see troubles in the political realm, but we're going to look at the latter rain, which is what we as God's people are believing for, and that's a kingdom of light rising up in the midst of the darkness, and it's good news, not bad news. It's the gospel means good news, right, Gary?
Right.
So this end of the ages, the end of the ages of man, including the Gentile age, has already come to an end. Is not the end as in destruction and death and the world blowing up and being gone and fear, and it's the end of the evil reign of man. 666 is that's that number means, and the beginning of the kingdom of light and goodness and grace and peace on earth, goodwill toward men, is what the angels sang when Jesus was born.
Right.
So there's my spiel. So how?
No, that's not your spiel.
No, well, that's part of my spiel. More to spiel on later.
Judy Meshevich is on.
Hi, Judy.
Blessing to you, Judy.
Good to see you. You're our dear friend too.
So when I first had an experience with the Lord about 50-some years ago now, there was a famous book everybody was reading by Alvin Toffler. It was called Future Shock. And it was about how things were changing so fast that individuals and societies were actually suffering from, well, what he termed future shock.
Yeah.
With the future catching up so fast that it was hard to keep up with it in your mind.
Right.
And hi, Lisa. And so Alvin Toffler, who wrote the book, he's probably not around anymore because he would be over 100 years old, but he would really be shocked if he could see
Oh, yeah. It's changed way more than when he wrote that book.
today.
Oh, yeah.
And Frank White showed up.
Hey, Frank.
Good morning, Frank. The fact is that the one thing that doesn't change is that everything is always changing. And as Adam said to Eve, and as they left the garden, we live in a changing world, my dear. Well, if that's the case, then how come that statement never changes? I would like to know. Because we live in such a changing world. And so we're in a world that's about to change for the better. And I mean really the better.
Right.
So what we were going to talk about today is the latter rain, but not in the sense that we're going to go over every scripture on the latter rain and teach the whole Jewish fulfillment of it and all those kind of things, because You can do that with just a concordance. Well, you want to talk about what it's some of the things that are taking place and what is the future, the immediate future holds for the people of God that has to do with the latter rain and the return of Jesus, etc. Oh, Benita came on.
Hi, Benita. Good to see your little tiny picture.
Right.
It's so small. It's hard to see him.
So, what it has to do with is the fact that faith is the confidence or the ability to operate in the unseen realm.
Right.
Because the unseen realm is the only one that is reality. Everything else is just a reflection of that, or in today's jargon,
Hologram.
a hologram almost. There's more to it than that because you can't wreck your car by running into a hologramic tree, but it is in a sense just a hologram of what actual reality is. And it's our ability to operate in the unseen realm. Now, I don't know if Lena decides to talk about that a little bit today, but for her, and there's other people like her, but for Lena, David Christie there.
Hi, David.
Said he hopes to see us soon. Oh, well, that'd be good.
Yes.
Okay. And the unseen realm, she oftentimes sees it. I don't so much. In fact, hardly ever. But maybe never. I don't know. But anyway.
Well, you've seen some stuff, but I think the stuff you've seen is actually crossed over into this material.
Yeah. It's something that, rather than me seeing into that something from there is crossed over here.
Yes.
But it's our real faith has to do with being able to operate by the unseen realm.
Well, and that's what it says in the famous Hebrews 11 faith chapter. It says that things that are made are things that are seen are not made of those things which do appear. And that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So it is it's relying upon the evidence of invisible substances and invisible things behind the material world that we see around us. And then we believe in the invisible things even more than the material by faith.
Right. And to get our thinking, see, the only real help that you can give anybody is to help them to start to see things the way God sees it and get his worldview of what's going on on the planet. Because there's always been something going on. There was things going on before you and I were born in just the 20th century. There was things going on, and there's been things going on the whole time. We've never had a time. There's been a time when things calmed down some. During the age of the Roman Empire, they call it the Pax Romana, which meant the peace of Rome. Brought to the world.
About 300 years.
A relative
peace,
calm on the planet.
The only time in the history of mankind it's happened for any length of time.
But we live in an age of turmoil, and we talked last time about the fact that the woman who, in Revelation, the 12th chapter, who's travailing to give birth. There's different ways you can apply that, but really it's talking about this world that we live in is in travail to give birth to actually the latter rain. And some of the verses that have to do that, it talks about, well, one of them, for instance, that's being quoted a lot now is in 2 Chronicles 7:14. I believe we read this last Saturday also, but we're also going to go to another one in 2 Chronicles. The 2 Chronicles 7:14, oddly enough, is 5:7.
Yeah.
Because 2 Chronicles is the 14th book of the Bible. The 7th chapter and the 14th verse.
Right, 5 sevens. So I'll read that.
Okay.
If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. That's a great promise.
Right.
We need to believe that promise and trust in that.
But it's
his people. It doesn't have to be all those wicked, ungodly people out there. It means us. If we turn from our ways, if we seek his face and pray, he'll heal our land.
Right. And so then we have another one in 2 Chronicles 20:20.
Yeah, 2020 for 2020. So the background is that they are surrounded by 3 armies that are coming in to destroy them, the city of Jerusalem. Jehoshaphat is the king at the time. And there doesn't look like there's any hope. They're so far. Even one of the armies would have outnumbered them. And so Jehoshaphat, this is what he says to the people. They're in this situation. And they rose early in the morning and went forth into the wilderness of Tekoa. And as they went forth, Jehoshaphat stood and said, "Hear me, O Judah, and ye inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, so shall you be established. Believe his prophets, so shall ye prosper." So despite everything that had appeared, notice how hopeless it looked, he said, we will believe his prophets and we will prosper. So this little tiny army goes forth to face these 3 gigantic armies, and they're surrounded, believing that the Lord will prosper them.
Right. And going by the words of the prophets.
Right.
And so one of the things is, I'm going to touch on a couple of things here, sort of in the beginning. But, competition is a word that has gotten a bad rap in the Christian world. And it has to do with the fact that envy and strife enter into practically everything. That's what caused the problem with Cain and Abel.
Right.
And Pilate said that the reason that the Jews had delivered Jesus up, he figured out it was for envy, because Pilate was a Roman politician and knew how he got his position in the kingdom was through striving and through competing and so on. And you have to compete on jobs, et cetera, et cetera. But there's another aspect of that has to do with this, and that is that all of us, whatever your job is, whether you're an independent contractor or whether you work for somebody or whatever it is, or whether you have a 2-hour or an hour Bible study on Saturday morning, you're competing with everything else that's going on in the world for people's attention and time.
Yeah.
And so.
And it's people are running. We're in the age where you run to and fro.
Right.
You know, running to and fro. That means gotta get there, and so much stuff to do and not enough time to do it. So this competition for attention is fierce.
Right. And so it has to do with, why listen to you guys, or however you want to look at that. But it actually has to do with that. People make decisions about how they're going to spend their time in the next day or the next hour or whatever. And some of the real popular preachers, so to speak, on YouTube, they have 20,000. If you look at, how many people listen, they have 20,000 hits, 20,000 people that at least have opened the thing up. I don't know if they listen to the whole thing, but, or sometimes 200,000 in a few days or whatever. And so whatever you're doing, whether it's for the Lord, whether it's for a paycheck, or whether it's to get a job, or any of those kind of things, it all has to do with the fact that we're competing for people's time and attention and loyalty and so on. All of us are. There's just no getting around it.
Yeah.
And in doing that, God is going to have prophets. What it's talking about here, if you believe his prophets,
you'll
prosper. God's going to have prophets that are unique, So why would you listen to me, or why would you listen to Lena? See, and a lot of preachers that get on the internet, and even some of them that are quite listened to, the attitude is that, well, I am just so smart that you ought to listen to me. I mean, I'm really smart. Or I know the original languages. Or I've studied this Bible for 50 years. And there's people who study this Bible for 50 years. You ought to get as far away from it as you can. Yeah. The reason, okay? Or, I'm so young and good looking, or I'm so smooth, or I'm so funny, or any of these kind of reasons, okay? The fact of the matter is, it has got nothing to do with whether or not you have God's perspective on things. None of those things do. And, one of the things about me which made it so I wasn't exactly a preacher, I guess. I never saw myself as a preacher because I never read this. I never read the Bible with the idea that I was going to prove something, hardly ever, so that I could convince somebody else.
You read it because you wanted to know the Lord.
Yeah, I read it.
You wanted to see his face.
I wanted to see how things went.
Yeah.
What was actually going on, and seeing if I could see some unique things in here that actually were God's point of view. Now, so, for the majority of my Christian experience, I just left all the bottom line interpretation up to the big boys, the preachers, the pastors, this thing, that thing, and the other thing, because, like if you're a Catholic, well, God talks to the Pope. He talks to, like that, like the line from that one film where he says he buys his granddaughter a ticket to paint in the plaza in Rome. He says, go to Rome and pray there. He says, God will hear you. God hears you better there. And those kind of ideas. And, it has nothing to do with that our prayers. See, we could turn this Saturday thing into a prayer connection where we try to get as many people praying for different needs, because we got needs, you got needs.
Right.
Everybody's got needs healing, needs financial, needs business, needs miraculous intervention. We could turn this into a forum for that because we believe in faith. Okay? But our prayers, we're not smarter or any of those kind of things. Or I'm not Jewish. I don't wear a yarmulke with sideburns and everything to increase my authority, and none of those kind of things. Okay? Yeah. So why listen to these people? Well, here's what I found out over the years. Okay? I left all this, the big stuff, to the big guys. And I had my own ideas about things, and the Lord talked to me. I got a revelation. By doing that, I'm like one who listened, who was sitting by. Okay? You know what I found? It eventually dawned on me after about 35 years that they were wrong about most of this stuff. They were so.
The beast didn't speak in 1970.
Frank, the beast didn't speak in 1978 or 1993 or any of the projections that were put out there.
And they didn't even know what the beast speaking meant.
Or what was going on. I found out that most of this very complex systems of interpretation were wrong. And the things that the Lord had told me over the years were starting to happen right in front of my eyes. And it was like, oh, whoa.
And I had a similar experience.
Yeah, Lena had a similar experience.
I had a number of visions and dreams where the Lord showed me the scriptures. Opened the scriptures up and said, this is what is going to happen. This is how this scripture is going to be fulfilled. And you will say, and then turn on the news a couple years later. Sometimes it was a couple years ahead of time. And there it is. I'm seeing it on the news. The exact thing the Lord told me would happen. And that kept happening repeatedly until I've gotten to where, that's what I trust. I trust the still small voice of the Lord. I trust his spirit. I follow him speaking to me through the word. And
so I'm going to go over to, I'm going to go over to.
And that's what you should trust too. Not that you shouldn't listen to our teachings and open your mind to what we're saying, but ultimately, you need to see the face of Jesus in the Word of God and his voice and what is witnessed to you by the Spirit.
And he does have prophets. And so if we're prophets,
right,
and you believe us, you'll prosper in understanding God. Okay?
Yeah, we're not saying there aren't offices. There are prophets and evangelists and teachers and people who have those gifts. But it's not a blind following, and it's not an over-under.
So I found out that I did have a gift in solving some of these riddles and in understanding
you do.
What was taking place in the world, to such an extent that in my later years, when I was 72, 73, 74, I was taking classes at the university in Southern Oregon. And people started to listen to me in class till the Holy Ghost came on me a few times and just blew the lid off of things in a way that people accepted it. It was pretty shocking. Yeah. So if you go over to Matthew, the 25th chapter, I'm going to go over there in a minute. But some of the ways the Lord changes your perspective when you get on this, that God is interested in nations and kings. In fact, he told his disciples that you're going to stand before kings. And when you do, Steve McCoy quoted this to me this morning. When you do, Jesus said, don't even contemplate what you're going to say. He'll give you a mouth and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to gainsay nor resist. He'll give it. The Lord will give it to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what Steve prayed for us this morning before we came on.
And so, see, we're living in a time right now of global consciousness of the people on this planet. Have a global consciousness has come forward, and God is interested in politicians and nations and groups of people. He's interested in all these things, and he has his hand in it. And his people are the ones that are going to determine what the outcome of these things are. The people that are called by his name, not the people who are called Democrats or Republicans or liberals or conservatives
or libertarians
or libertarians or Baptists or Catholics or Pentecostals or Muslim, but the people that are called by his name are the ones that are going to have the power to affect the outcome of what you're seeing out here. Okay? Now,
25, what verse? I'm in 25.
You're in 25? Okay. I want the one in 25 where
the kingdoms?
They stand before God and he separates the sheep from the goats. God talking about the white throne judgment.
Okay.
In Matthew
Starts
25.
at verse 31.
Yeah, that's it. Verse 31. Matthew 25, 31.
Want me to start reading?
I do.
Okay. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all of the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations.
Okay, so, we were taught that we were all going to resurrect someday and stand there. If you have a chick tract, what they used to call a chick tract, you stand there naked before the throne and you see your life pass before you and you're judged by God at that time. No, the judgment, the sowing and reaping and the judgment of God is going on in our lives right now as we make daily decisions about what we're going to do with God and what he's doing with us. Okay, that's God's judgment. This is talking about something else. And you notice here, it says nations. I don't know if I should say this publicly, but on the chick tract, it was kind of funny because it had everybody lined up and you got a backside shot. It said they stood naked before God, so their little fannies were all shining here in the chick tract picture about the final judgment that God was going to bring to people. That's not what it says here. It says nations. Okay, watch this close.
And he shall separate one from another, as a shepherd divides the sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left hand. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. And I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me, and I was sick, and you visited me. And I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When did we see you a stranger, and took you in, or naked, and clothed you? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the Lord shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say to you, inasmuch as you have done it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me.
So, in that you've done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, God says.
My brethren.
Okay, so we're talking about nations here. We're not talking about individuals. I want you to get this. We're talking about nations, okay? Because this has to do with what we're going to talk about here today on the latter rain. We're talking about nations, and there's sheep nations and goat nations. And here's the test of judgment that's going to decide what they are. You are not going to see Hitler's Germany, Nazi Germany. You're not going to see on the new earth. It is not coming back. No, it was completely done in by the good guys. I'm sorry if you don't think there's any good guys and bad guys. If you're one of these people that think there's no good guys and bad guys, except the people who don't believe like you, I never seen anything like it. The people that don't want any good guys and bad guys in the day that we live in, that want to be open to everything and have open borders, have open everything and everything and everything. They're open to everything, except the people that don't believe like them, and they want to just roast. They don't care what happens as long as they get roasted. It just turns into insanity. Okay, but from God's point of view, the nations are going to stand before him, and the way they treat his people is what's going to make the difference. So there's two things that have to do whether a nation is a sheep nation or a goat nation, okay? And whether it's going to be judged or whether God is going to bless it. God blesses groups of people, organizations, corporations, financial institutions, and nations as a whole, depending on certain things. And when it comes to nations, it has to do with how they treat his people, which are called by his name.
Right.
How they treat his people is what makes the difference.
And the least of the little ones, I think that he sees the little ones, actually literal children, also as his people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he says, suffer the little ones to
Children.
come unto me. So,
and the society can be gauged in how they treat their children and how they treat their animals, by the way.
yes.
There's a
They're
real
animals.
gauge.
Yes.
They're animals, even the ones they eat, and their pets. I mean, if you eat animals, you don't have to. I'm not promoting that.
No, we're not.
Yeah, but
we do.
We're not getting into that.
You have to be. Abuse of animals makes the Lord angry. You got the example of Balaam and the mule.
And children, their attitude towards that. But what makes a nation a sheep nation or not is whether, one of the things is whether they're friends of Israel. And what God is doing.
Right. That's his natural brethren. Nation. That's his natural brethren. Still. Yeah, still. The natural brethren of Jesus, and he's still.
So this should give you some idea about what's taking place in the world right now, and whether or not the leaders of those countries will listen to the prophets that God sends to them. And do you know that God sends leaders prophets? A lot of times you and I never know it, and a lot of times they get turned out.
Yes.
But God sends them prophets, and how they treat Israel and how they treat and whether or not their leadership listens to the prophets that he sends makes a difference whether they're sheep or goat nations.
Right.
Yeah. It's not that there's no evil in them or everything is hunky-dory and all that. No.
Right. I mean, we have examples of pretty wicked kings in the Old Testament of Babylon and Media Persia, Cyrus and Nebuchadnezzar, but they're pretty bad guys.
Yeah, bad guys.
But they listened, Nebuchadnezzar listened to Daniel. Cyrus listened to Ezra.
Right.
You know, they listened to the prophets, and so then the Lord says to Cyrus, who was an ungodly, bloodthirsty, if you tell him in history, he was bad. But he listened, and the Lord called him his anointed. The Lord anointed Cyrus to do good because he blessed God. He blessed the Lord's brethren. He blessed God's children. He did good. And so you listen to the prophet. So it doesn't have to be a believing leader, but a leader that is listening to the Lord and is obeying the words of the Lord as far as running his nation.
So I want to turn over the book of James. And by the way, I don't know, if we'll ever get around to some of these things, but the book of James is, I tell you, every aspect of Scripture has something about it that is really phenomenal, and it was put there for that purpose. And the book of James has everything in it that shows what took the early church out of its position that it had, that Jesus left it in, with God and its authority in God. Every single thing that took it out of that position is in the book of James.
It's the story of the falling away.
Of the falling away of the church and how it happened. And
but it also gives hope in the very end of the latter rain time and the restoration, which is now.
So I want to get that one where it says that it talks about the judgment. It says that the judge standeth before the door. You know what I'm talking about?
I know that verse, but I'm not sure where it's at in James. Oh, it's 5 verse 9.
Yeah, that's it.
Want me to read the context?
Sure.
Okay. I'll start with 7. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waits for the precious fruit of the earth and has long patience for it, until he receives the early and the latter rain. Be ye also patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draws near. Grudge not one against another, brethren, lest you be condemned. So don't keep grudges in your hearts. If you want to be ready for the latter rain, don't keep a grudge against one of your brothers. That's how you get your heart prepared to be planted for the harvest. Lest you be condemned. Behold, the judge stands before the door.
So the question is, what door? Well, the door to the latter rain. Well, yeah. Stands before the door to the latter rain. The judge does. So the Lord is judging things right now. And the nations, hey, I want to tell you something. The nations, but not just America and the nations of Europe and Eastern Europe and this communist bloc in China and all of these things. Okay? That's not entirely what it's all about. He's going to break it down into, God doesn't see things always the way that we've lined them out. He's going to break it down into some smaller packages. And things are going to be judged city by city, county by county,
institution by institution,
area by area. Those are the nations that are going to be judged. And yes, America and England and China and all of these other places as nations even.
And there's a scripture that says, know ye not that the saints shall judge the earth.
Yeah.
And Paul's talking about not taking one another to court, and in that section it says you should be able to judge these things between yourselves. But there's also in Daniel it says Jesus is coming and 10,000s of his saints with him. Or it says it's a prophecy of the Messiah. It doesn't say Jesus. It's I think it refers to him as the Son of Man in that passage. And so this judgment is gonna look different than we think. It's not gonna be the chick track thing. And I had a dream 2 nights ago now.
No, go ahead.
In which I saw Jesus return and the saints and us being transformed and the time of when we were taking the earth back and how long that's going to take. I'm not sure when that would all be finished, but we were in the process of judging the earth. And so we were, in my dream, me and Gary were on a mission to rescue children. And it was in another nation, and I can't tell you where. I don't know where I was. I know it was a jungle nation. And these children were kept in some kind of a place in a building that was more in the jungle. And the children looked Asian or perhaps Filipino, but I'm not sure. It could have been Indonesia. I don't know. But they were in a terrible situation. And joining us came a resurrected saint from the Old Testament times, or from probably New Testament. And I don't know who she was. And but she was full of the glory of the Lord, and we were doing mighty miracles. And we were bringing judgment upon this institution that had hurt these little children. And what's interesting to me is in the dream, I saw the news, how the world was looking at what was happening. And they were saying and depicting us as very evil, especially this one saint who was a resurrected saint who was doing all kinds of miracles. They depicted her as an alien. And they said that it was an alien invasion is how they explained what was going on, all this supernatural stuff. They still would not believe that Jesus had returned and that the saints were bringing judgment upon the world.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
They were still, they would not believe it. They had their explanations. They were still explaining it away, despite the incredible miraculous stuff that was happening all around them. And so I woke up with a different picture of how it's going to be. We're going to have some work to do to clean up this earth in the time of the latter rain and the great move of the Spirit to bring in the millennium. It's going to be a war, but it's going to be a war we're going to win, and we're going to have victory. And the Lord has always done what he does with his people in their midst, and so we're going to be part of it. So that's what you wanted me to tell, that part, right?
Right. Definitely did.
Oh, well, there was another part of the dream, too, I should add. I saw the latter rain, the substance of it. I don't know how to tell you how sometimes you know something in a dream, you see it as real, but it's another sense beyond. Sometimes you sense something beyond what your knowledge is beyond what you're actually seeing. I saw the rain of the latter rain, the substance of it as love. Pure love falling from the heavens. And I saw people who had major issues with love and had trouble with their brothers getting along, had the grudges that we just talked about against one another. And I saw as the latter rain falling, their hearts completely transformed and them loving one another, and nets the relationships that may have been broken for years being mended back together again. So if you're estranged from people that you love and you don't know how to fix it, well, there's hope, because the latter rain is going to bring a love into the hearts of people whose hearts are open to it like never before. It's going to sweep away the things that have come between people, take the stones out of people's hearts. People who dive into that latter rain are going to be transformed in the inner man by the love of God. And that's going to be an incredible thing. And that's more than anything is going to be convince the world that it's real. I mean, it's not evil aliens taking over. Right, Gary?
That's true. I'm trying to find that one where it says that the latter rain in the former rain in the first month.
Oh, I know what I have that one, Mark.
Okay.
I know where that one is.
Huh?
James?
No, it's Old Testament.
Yeah.
And I can find it for you.
If you think that we're disorganized this morning, you should see us sometimes.
We're in the process of moving, and when you're transitioning from one location to another, let me tell you, everything gets a little.
And that's all we've done for the last few years is transition.
Yes, but we're finally getting settled. Okay. Yeah, oh gosh, I thought I had it marked here, and now I'm not. Oh, I think I found it.
I don't think so. I think it's in Joel, but I can't. For some reason, I can't put my finger on it. Anyway, if you go over to Revelation, the 21st chapter, says, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea." This is Revelation 21. "And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. He will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And God himself shall be with them and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. For the former things are passed away." So there's the material for this city is coming down right now. And it has to do with God dwelling amongst men, not men leaving this planet and the planet being abandoned and fried, started over and all of those kind of things. Oh no. This planet is a launching pad that God is going to use for a place to dwell and possibly other things like that are going on in the solar system and the universe.
Well, just think, Jesus' name is Emmanuel. And Emmanuel means God with us. God the Father is coming to earth to dwell with us in that city. And that is going to be an amazing thing. The creator with Jesus he created. So when you meet Jesus, you meet the creator. But think of it, the Father with us. The Father.
Yeah.
No more dishes.
See, no more dishes. Steve's over there washing the dishes. So here's a verse that talks about, this is a latter rain verse. It's just fabulous. That gives that picture too. This is Habakkuk 2:14. "The earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." Wow, just think of that. Just think of it. That glory.
Well, I have a point.
Oh, you do?
Well, I mean, you see this pandemic happening, right?
Come on. Steve.
It's Steve. He has a point.
I was thinking about this is, the knowledge of the glory of the Lord filling the earth as the waters fill the sea. Well, it's not so hard to imagine when you think about what's just happened in the last 6 weeks or 8 weeks.
Changed everything.
Everybody.
Everything has changed.
Of COVID-19 has filled the earth.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's how quickly changes have happened.
Yeah. So it can happen just like that and faster.
That's right.
That's right.
Things can change just like that.
That's a good point.
So here in the 21st chapter of Revelation, there's 12 gates to this city. See, the city had walls, so it had a wall so high that you can't even describe it. And it has gates, and these gates are guarded by angels. Each gate is a pearl, is made out of one pearl. And what you have to have a real city or a nation, one of the first things you have to have is borders and safety, okay, and gates that allow people in. And so the 23rd verse of this 21st chapter of Revelation says, "And the city hath no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of the Lord did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved. Okay, now remember, there's goat nations and sheep nations he talks about over there. And the destiny of the goat nations is not that great. Going into the lake of fire. But the nations of them which are saved, you can have enough people in a nation. If you have enough people doing right by God's standards, okay, that's a nation that's saved, shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth to bring their glory and honor into it. Okay? And the gates of it shall not be shut by day, for there is no night there. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. The kings of the earth and the nations are going to bring their glory and honor into it. Do you know that there's a reason for all these nations out here, the different bloods, the different races, the different everything?
There's
Okay?
a glory in
The
them.
uniqueness of it.
There's a beauty in all of that.
There's a beauty in all of it.
And when you think of the resurrection, I once had a dream, and I think April did too. Both of us had a similar dream from the Lord. We were all excited talking about it. I remember this is in which we saw not only the nations that are currently on the earth being part of this great city and people flowing in, but we saw nations from the past. We saw all the beauty and the culture and the music and the art. And as the people resurrected from past eras, righteous people, and they brought those wonderful and beautiful cultures into the city. And none of that was lost. None of the art, none of the beauty that throughout all of the history of man that's good and beautiful and right, is lost, because it is preserved in the people who come back to life and are a part of that city.
Right.
I found the verse, Gary.
Okay.
This
it was in Joel.
It is in Joel. You're right. It's in Joel.
Sometimes I'm looking right at it, but I can't find it.
Yes, it's in Joel, right here. It's in Joel 2:23. Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he has given you the former rain moderately. So what happened on the day of Pentecost? It's called moderate. Boy, you read that story to go, whoa, that was huge. But he's calling it moderate. For he has given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain and the latter rain in the first month. So that's the other thing you wanted me to share. I just remembered, Gary,
right.
was this was years ago. I talked last time about that I had a series of visions, and that my daughter Elizabeth, she started prophesying to confirm when she's about 5, confirmed some of those visions for me, and even quoted scriptures. And this was one of them. I had this vision where I saw 2 incredible waves of the Spirit still in the future. And the first was a complete restoration of the early rain. So you have the early rain moderately, but in the first month, and actually that means season. And we're in that season right now, the beginning of that season of the rains, the rainy season. So I saw a wave of the Spirit that was a complete restoration of the early rain, but this time sweeping the entire world. And it would be so great that people would think, oh, this is it. Nothing could be greater than that. And the joy of the people of the Lord would be great because of all the miracles and the moving of the Spirit. But it still was the early rain. And then I turned, in my dream, I saw it I was on a beach, and I saw it as a big wave. And it was great. But then I looked out to sea, and I saw right on its heels in the same season, like a tsunami, a wave 100 feet high, just coming toward us, a wave of God's Spirit that was so great that would sweep us all away. And that was the true latter rain. And what's going to happen when that hits? I have no. It says we can't imagine it. The scriptures say we can't imagine what God has prepared for them.
7 times bright.
Yes, it's going to be 7 times. I mean, the early rain is described as a moon, and this is going to be this. This is going to be the early rain is the light of the moon sevenfold, but this is going to be the light of the sun sevenfold. What was the light during the early rain time? So we can't imagine the brightness of the glory of the Lord that is going to sweep the earth at Jesus' return. And in the midst of that, Jesus is going to be here. He's going to be here with the saints, and the whole world is going to change. And it is a bright future that we're looking toward. The return of Jesus to this planet. He's going to save the earth from the wicked. Did you have anything more?
No, that's it. We've kind of gone for an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what we wanted to share.
People are going to think that when in the first month, in other words, when this is launched, that the latter rain that's restored moderately, they're going to think that's it.
Yeah. But something new and greater is coming. And I can't even begin. I've seen glimpses of it in dreams and visions of us living, the people of God living a supernatural life. Not even being physically here, but being, like Philip, poof, the Lord's in your assignment and suddenly you're in the other part of the world. I'm not having natural bodies anymore, but transformed to be like angels, and just amazing things that we're going to be doing together, and we're going to love one another. And the greatest miracle of all, it will be the love. Will be the love that we have one another. Every human heart hungers for love more than anything else, and that'll be the greatest part. The love of Jesus and the love of our brothers and sisters. That'll be the greatest miracle of all, because mankind has never been able to love one another. We haven't. Our hearts are desperately wicked, it says, and because we don't have, because of the fall, that's what we lost in the fall, was the love, and it's going to be restored. So, yes. So anyway, that's all we have for today, and I'll wait a minute in case there's a question, and we love everybody, and we will see you. And bye-bye.
What a day
There you go.
will be. What a day.